In this episode of the Biz Chat, I'm talking about the best cold email I ever received and how you can steal the approach. So if you're like me, you probably hate cold email. You hate getting it, you don't respond to it, you delete it as soon as it comes in, and yet people still send it. Why is that? Sometimes people think of it as a numbers game, like if you just blast a list of 100,000 addresses and even if you get 3 that respond, then that's good. There's a lot of different reasons why people send cold email. Sometimes it's really effective. And so what I want to kind of go over today is what's really the difference, what goes into a great cold email and what goes into the trash that we're used to seeing every day. So I want to talk about an actual occasion when I saw a great cold email, and I'm going to just dissect it so you can see how you can use that same approach when trying to generate leads for your own business, especially if you run a service business like a consultancy or an agency. So before I really go into the weeds on this, I want to first talk about one of the worst emails that I've ever received. And by the way, this isn't really the worst email, it's just a great archetypical example of a bad cold email. So I looked through LinkedIn and I saw this email from Julie, and I'm not going to say her last name or company, but I'm going to read her email and then kind of show you why it's terrible, and hopefully you agree with me. So Julie's email says, subject line is business deal from Julie, and it says conversation. Hello Kyle, I heard about your company through a digital agency that I work with. We're a technology company in the payment space, serving digital agencies as well as large web development companies. We're also one of the largest providers of software for payments to attorney firms in the US and K-12 schools in the US. Do you have a moment this week for a conversation? I think there's a way for us to do some business together and perhaps create a significant revenue stream for you. When is a good time for me to call you? Best regards, Julie. So I'm sure you agree with me, this is a really bad email and one that did not get a reply from me. But why exactly is it so bad? There's a few things. So first of all, it's extremely vague and self-indulgent. She spends a lot of time talking about her and her company, while at the same time somehow being extremely vague. So for example, she says that they're the largest provider of payments for law firms and schools K-12, which I had no idea what that meant. For starters, I run a SaaS company. I'm not a digital agency. I'm not a law firm. I'm not a K-12 school. So all of it just seemed very inappropriate. Like maybe it was perhaps I was just one name in a huge pile of names that she had emailed the exact same email to. Very likely that's what happened. Julie also assumes a lot. So she assumed that we were at the business deal stage. That's what her subject line was, business deal from Julie, which is very odd because if you're emailing somebody cold, then you're not at the deal stage yet. You're just sort of having a conversation. So it's a little bit like proposing marriage when you meet a stranger for the first time or go out on a first date. It was just very awkward. And then the third thing was that she was pushing for a meeting before she even understood if I was the right fit. So why, if what she's offering is so great, why would she want to meet with me if she doesn't even know if we're a good fit? You know, why would she want to take that time out of her schedule to have a call? So all in all, I mean, it's a bad email. It's not the worst because it's probably as bad as every other cold email that you get through LinkedIn. But really what you want to be doing when you're writing a cold email is try to avoid all of those pitfalls that poor Julie fell into. Now, it's time to go through the best cold email I received. So this was quite a while back, a couple years ago. I still haven't found an email that's been better that I've seen that's been cold. And so this one was from a company called Full Story. And they're a SaaS company that basically records videos of your users using your website so you can see where they click and where they go. Now, to start off, the subject line was magic goggles, and that's the only thing I will say is actually the bad part of their cold email, because it's not a very good subject line. It's not the company name. It's not something that really people would click on, but aside from that, it was an excellent cold email. So I'm going to read it now. So the email says, Kyle, I wanted to give you a quick shout to introduce you to Full Story, a new tool that helps companies understand customer experiences like never before. The easiest way to get a feel for Full Story is to check out the 30-second demo of me interacting with your site. There's a link, and then it says, want the full story? You can take it for a 2-week trial, or shoot me a message if you have any questions. Happy watching. So Trey's email was very good. The most important part of this email was that it was visual. There was a visual representation of my company's website. So before I read any text, the first thing my eye goes to is a video of my website, right? Who's not gonna click on that and see what happens? So that was very smart to get my attention. People are very narcissistic. They're all only consumed with themselves. So the more you can put them and their own brand into the email and talk about them and show them, the more effective it will be. And then when it came down to the actual content of the email, that was very effective as well. So he said in the email, this Full Story helps people understand customer experiences like never before. So that shows that he knew he was emailing the founder of a SaaS company, because the message was targeted at me and my needs. It wasn't, again, talking about law firms and K-12 and all that stuff that has nothing to do with me. So Trey took the time and researched and had a very targeted list of people that obviously run SaaS companies, and they care a lot about experiences. It's not some vague promise of additional revenue and growth streams. Second thing that he did really well was it felt very low pressure. He did not try to get me on a phone call. He didn't, there was no pressure sell at all. It was like, here's the link, check it out. Let me know if you have questions, happy watching. And it was very lighthearted, not necessarily humorous, but it was just breezy, and that's kind of a good feeling when you're reading a cold email. It's like, my only action I had to take was click a link and view a video. So that wasn't that hard for me to do. So the next part came when it was time for follow-up. So obviously Trey from Full Story had some kind of tracking on his email, because he knew that when I opened the email, he knew that I clicked the link and that I viewed and all that stuff. So the next day I got another email, and here's what it said. Hey Kyle, couldn't help but notice that you had a chance to watch the Full Story demo I sent you yesterday. You guessed it, we use Full Story on Full Story. Wanted to see if I could answer any questions for you. I'd be happy to give you a quick 20-minute demo. Of course, if you'd rather jump in, I can shoot you a login to a no strings attached Full Story trial account, and you can be up and running in less than 10 minutes. What do you think best? So it was a great follow-up, and again, Trey really showed that he knew who I was, he knew what I was doing, and he was getting me at the right time. So to remember this, the goal of a cold email is not to close a deal, it's to learn if a prospect is right for you. And so if you use cold email this way as just a way to prospect and to try to create leads, not to try to close deals, it will hopefully work for you. Now you might be thinking, what if I don't run a SaaS business? What if I run a service business, a consultancy, an agency, something that's a little bit higher price tag, there's more involved, it's a longer sales cycle. Will cold email still work for me? I say yes, it can if it's done right. So I had a chat on the Biz Chat a while back. You can look it up. It's Alex Berman. He talked about how he grew 400K from nothing using just cold email in 30 days. It's a really good conversation. You should check it out. There's some really good pointers here. This is just to show that cold email can work for a service business. So here is the approach I would take if I was going to steal Trey's approach and Full Story's approach for how they do cold email. So first of all, like Trey, you've got to really know who you're going after. Marketing agencies are always telling their clients they should have customer personas and avatars and really, shape their ideal client and know who they are. Oftentimes they don't know it for themselves. They'll take on any client who comes knocking, and that's why it's really important to be specialized and to know who your best customer is. So you should know the general size of the company, how much they do in revenue roughly, who's the position, the job title of the person you're going after at the company. You should kind of know all these things going in. Second of all, you want to use this information to find leads. So you can use a tool like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is great. You can put in all this criteria into a search and it can show you lists of people. You can contact them, or you can just save them as leads and have them as a lead a lead list that's saved. Now, once you know who you're going after, you want to make sure you can find their email addresses. Now, you can use LinkedIn's InMail to message them, but that's very easy for that to get lost. You don't necessarily know if they opened it, so I prefer to just get in their inbox directly. And there's different tools out there that you can use to find people's email addresses. Yesware, Reportative. Generally speaking, depending on the size of the company, if somebody's at a small company, it'll probably just be their first name at domain name. If they're at a larger company, then it might be, first initial, full last name at company domain. Once you know the email address, you want to actually start crafting the message. Now, before you do that, I want to talk about lead magnets. So we had posted on the podcast last week a whole post about lead magnets, about different ways of doing them, what we're doing at Proposify. But I would just want to point out something, which is that we always think of lead magnets as being things like ebooks, cheat sheets, guides that you give to a prospect when they're, say, reading a blog post and you want to get their information, their email address, so that you can contact them. And that's true. Lead magnets are great for that. But they can also be useful if you already know the prospect and their email address. And this gets into more account-based marketing. So for example, let's say you run a marketing agency, or even more specialized like a social media or an SEO agency. You're probably used to doing audits for your clients, maybe even at the proposal stage. If you can find a way to automate this and make it faster, you could actually do it for cold prospects. Using tools like Unimo, Word Tracker, Google AdWords, there's all kinds of tools, free and paid, that you can use to generate reports from a URL. And if you can pull them into one cohesive report, nicely branded PDF or nicely branded document or micro website or something, you can use that as a tool to get that prospect's interest. Just like Trey did with the cold email and the screenshot of the video of the website, that's what got me interested, was because I saw myself in the email. If you can do a similar thing and put, say, a quick report with maybe a couple of takeaways or suggestions for that specific client, that's going to get their interest much more than just a block of text. So once you've got your lead magnet, you want to craft a message that's very short. Now, just to keep in mind, Trey's email was 30 words, and it told me pretty much everything I wanted to know or needed to know to get interested. Julie's email was 102 words, more than double the length, and told me absolutely nothing. So don't think you need to write a lot. Go as short and concise as possible. Be conversational and lighthearted in tone. Emails with humor get a 46% open rate according to Yesware. So if you are a funny person or you know funny people, have them craft your cold email, because that's going to get somebody, make somebody treat you more like a human, which is what you want. If you sound robotic, you'll get treated like a robot. And then finally, have some kind of follow-up method. Just like Trey got back with the email, it might have even been automated, that said, hey, I noticed you opened the video and looked at it, with kind of more of a further, push them further along the sales line. You want to do a similar thing. So if they look at your report or your audit, you want to know that they opened it, and then know that they viewed it, and then you can reach back and say, what did you think? I've got a few more suggestions if you want to jump on a call, or even better yet, have a paid service that you can say for the other 10 suggestions. It's all compiled in this nice document. It's X number of dollars. There could be an actual paid component there. So there's a lot of ways to follow up. You could actually use any kind of tool like Sidekick, for instance, to know whether or not a prospect opened your email. And I'm going to offer a shameless plug here and mention that using my product Proposify, you could put a lead magnet as a proposal, take off all the signature and pricing and all that kind of stuff, and just make it a document in the browser that your client can view, and you'll actually know when they opened it, where they looked, how long they spent on each section. And so you could use Proposify as a lead generation tool in addition to a proposal tool. So you've got your follow-up ready, and then hopefully you can start getting that conversation going, which is really what the goal of this whole thing is. Remember, you're not trying to close a deal, you're trying to figure out if the prospect is right for you. If you try these things, I'd love to hear if it works, if there's any additional suggestions you would like to offer, and I really hope you liked watching this video. So if you want more, be sure to hit subscribe, regardless of where you are, make sure you're subscribed with us on YouTube. And we also have the audio versions on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play. And don't forget to hit Proposify.biz if you want to check that out more and learn how the product can work for you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week.